Remember where you're going with your state of consciousness. You have to be comfortable with being in a space of nothing, right? Because you're everything, so you're nothing then, because that's like the next step in math. So then once you're there, then you're actually everything. So you're omniscient now. Now you move through everything, but guess what? The energetic potential of everything is also moving through you. That's the challenge. That's what we're all working to actually overcome right now, as far as being able to hold ourselves when we're actually in that state of all presentness. That's why we divide. We're like, oh my goodness, I only could take that much. They fling you off like a carousel that's just gone too fast because you didn't make it to the middle. If you make it to the middle, because remember, it's all happening now. That's why the days are moving faster. If you know what I know, you know the days are moving faster, but the clocks are staying the same. Why? Because it's exponential. We're entering 0 point field for real, but it's not so much as a 2012 thing. It's a 0 point field of yourself. And as you start getting into that 0 point, you're going to go to the event horizon. And I'll tell you, whether it happens this life or a million lifetimes from now, you're going to have to trust. Trust yourself and trust that all is self. Yep. And remember, the deprogramming is getting rid of the doubt that you have in yourself that's been embedded from when you've made mistakes when you were younger, when you were doing things of volition of other frequencies influencing you. Meaning that when younger, all the jams, even if they seem not to be completely fair at all, and you didn't have any power, were still things, whether you understood how you did it or not, that you brought about, even through coercion. Okay, some things can coerce you to use your projection power to bring in a manifestation that ends up wrecking your life or causing scars. Okay, and so what happens is these are cracks. These are basically what you would call inclusions in the gym. So as a diamond body, as a Christie, you would have this inclusion inside. And notice if you watch a crystal, when there's an inclusion, it's soft. Some people say you can't even get them out of there, but you can. You use a laser. And this is basically you pinpointing in the zone your consciousness using laser, which is Solomon Shamir. That's what Lazarus ended up becoming in the New Testament. But you're using this to basically awake the dead. So what you're doing is you're killing the cancer. Because remember, everyone has cancer. It's just to what degree they start appointing it, that they start recording it. Okay. And what is cancer? Cancer it's of course related to a serpent, but it's a dead cell. So it's an inclusion then. It's a part that's stuck. It's even carbon. And so to zap that out of there, you need that laser. And that's the precision of knowing exactly what you're doing with the order. Remember, the order is in the body. The order is in the universe. Is the reason why the thing doesn't slam into another thing and then all this rubble just starts falling everywhere. And it's because there's order, just like the same order that exists within your body. And then the more you put it in order, like remember, there's nothing that you need to be master over except for yourself, but you're going to have to go in there like that. You're going to have to go in there turning over tables. You have to literally back the gonads down. The gonads are this lower area of the body. And again, this depth knowledge knows a lot about the gonads are basically the goons. And they try to overrun the kingdom. They run all the way up from the lower levels of the body, basically breaking all the chakras. This is when the sexual energy is breaking itself up through the body and then into the brain. Then they say, oh, he's got fire in the mind. Now his mind is poison. So what happens from there is the gonads enter into the holiest of holies. This is where the pineal gland sits. Then throws out the consciousness, because the consciousness is now is basically in an arena that it doesn't even understand. After all, it's used to remaining in this high state of consciousness. Now it's overrun by gonads. The gonads then throw it out of the upper regions of the body, and then it begins tumbling down. This is called the fallen angel, tumbling down the ladder of lights. So you go down through the chakras, each world becoming more surprising and more harsh for the being until they land in the seat of their Cossacks. And that's where you'll find them chained down. And so now there's a prison break going on. Prism break. We break the prism because, see, the prism, if you understand the knowledge and the tradition, is used to trap light.
It's a prism.
It has no other use. So once one breaks that prism, meaning shattering this rainbow and idea of separations, now they come out of the Cossacks and they come with this energy. And they call this Kundalini's rising. And so remember, the only Antichrist is anti-Kundalini. So then the Kundalini's coming up, and now it's like warring with all the chakras, because it's actually going into those chakras with force. trying to balance things. Hopefully things are balanced, and then move through. See, the Kundalini is not trying to get stuck in another chakra, because if it does, it just becomes the deva of that world. And remember, this is happening with a lot of people as they experience more about their spiritual energy. They get all the way up to like the navel, all the way in certain areas, but going through the back channel. And then they get stuck because they think, oh, this is it. I'm here. I've achieved it. There's no such thing as it's over. There's no such thing as a goal. You need to get familiar with the energy, is what we were saying. Mm-hmm. So you have to get familiar with it being infinitely like this. So this is what it is. And just remember, we're seeds from a tree. We all have an opportunity to grow up and to be big trees. All of this stuff is laid out as simple as that. But remember the parable of the sower, because it becomes most important, especially during these times, about the birds, who are the angels or the angles, or these different frequencies that will try to pluck the seeds up that don't fall into rooted ground. While those who root in a little bit, meaning you read a couple things and then all you did was read and you didn't experience, can sprout real fast, like, man, that boy's shining, and then wither away because the roots are not deep enough to pull the water. So just look at that parable again, and then think of yourself as the seed, and then think about how your seed is falling, and then what is around. As like a turtle, you're wanting to make your way back into the great ocean and then grow up into be the big turtle rather than being food for something, you see? And just remember, though, also, it goes around, so it comes around. They call it in Chinese, yi ting. Yi ting. It's a Chinese word, actually. It means to power one's vehicle based on consumption. It means basically the opposite of what implosion is really about. So the last thing is that the difference between implosion and explosion, Oppenheimer, continuing in the vein of Hitler's paranormal division and all the rest of those that followed that lineage, breached deep into the vaults and grabbed what was called the Vimana Shastra, which gave them knowledge of proportion to a UFO dynamic. Okay? It also gave the knowledge first, though, of implosion. This is basically the same practices that we're attempting to perfect now with our breathing, because this is what the Tibetans and all these individuals knew, is how to turn air and compress air and then turn it into an energy and then use that energy to propel your consciousness. So it just so happens, so it creates a time machine. You basically implode, right? So when that knowledge was turned 360 degrees, so meaning turned upside down, it's an upside down pentagram is the symbol. When it's turned 360 degrees, now it becomes explosion. And this is why Oppenheimer quotes the Bhagavad Gita, now I become the destroyer of worlds. So, and this is because you can always know that every knowledge has its opposite. The same thing I was telling you with Solomon and about the angels and the demons. So just look at that as a metaphoric level. Everything that you're experiencing in life, no matter how great the magnitude is, has something that can cancel it out and make it null and void. So when you learn how to get familiar with those things, then it's very easy for you to enter into the advanced state of consciousness, because you have nothing warring against your mind. And so that's the state that we hope to achieve rather rapidly, and we hope to be able to teach others or show others how to do that, and also that we all learn how to do that with each other. So this is like I said, the platform hosts that. It's something that allows us all to connect with each other. It gives a curriculum that talks about these principles that I've discussed slightly today in much more detail. Also in the stage in which they should come in. There's no reason in trying to figure out what's going on with old vast face, which is the entire Kabbalistic plane, when one has not even left the netherworld and thrown back the curtain on old Wizard of Oz. You see what I mean? So it's a process of this climbing. And then what we want to do is we want to create a bridge. See, when we create a bridge, that means that a person can process and progress through all of this and get back to their totality rather rapidly, because they're going over the proper converters. So this is easy to see. See, in the hood and in the ghettos in different places around the world, the bridges are collapsed. And even on the spiritual plane, when you look, the pipe that gets to them is broken. And I have my own suspicions about who ransacked those, but it doesn't matter. Now, as organic people, every time you send out a message and a mission, it becomes a tube. When you connect, if you can be that bridge, then those frequencies can basically walk through you. And that's what a portal is. that your reflection, it's basically a mirror. So they're looking at themselves in a higher light. Remember what we talked about today. The reason why they can't conceive that, this is sometimes people have nightmares all the time and bad dreams, and they're wondering why they're not having these great dreams of laying at the beach. And it's because they have lost the higher light. So when they can phase into it again and they see it, and comes through mentors, this comes through good examples, it comes through what you're doing, then they're able to correct themselves and they correct their balance. And then once they're corrected their balance, they can spin. Just like, if you take a tire and it's out of balance, it can't go as fast as a tire that's in balance. So the entire body is a wheel. And so just like our parents said, don't reinvent the wheel. That's tarot, which is another word for rota, which gives us our word rotate. It's the sequence of life. And so when you understand it, then every single day, there's other things that you can engage in. You'll find that there's so much stuff where you'll have a hard time paying attention to all the silly stuff in the rhetoric. Each day is an element. You should get yourself familiar with that element. Like you can turn on Spotify, just play the wind for one day, next day water, make your own days up, but make sure that you're starting to change your environment and be innovative. Because getting out of a vortex, it was a lot to get out of Atlanta. I left Atlanta last. That's Atlantis. It really is Atlantis. And it is Georgia, which is where a lot of the occultations have been going on with the Atlantean tradition. So it's also easy for me to spot them within the field of quote unquote, I call it the pie-based spirituality, the artificial spirituality, but hoping, even though that they're at that stance now, that hearing more of this truth breaks that old Saturnalian shell, allows them to even have the vision to see who that they can become and beyond, and that they leave the old programs. So remember this, the last thing, with what's going on in the world, these people have not even touched energy yet. If you think that these vampires and all this stuff, Illuminati and all this stuff have been familiar with energy at all, they're scared of it. It's a real thing. You can't even hold yourself together unless you're true. So they go in the opposite direction. But remember, if you make that leap and then you return, which would basically be like another quasi-messiah, and this is going to happen with several individuals, if you return with that energy is what they will even look to. And that's how things change. The stronger frequency always dominates. But it has nothing to do with numbers. In fact, the strongest frequency that I checked was 1. When you really think about it, it wasn't 5,000 Googleplex and yottabyte petaflop. It wasn't that. That meant that the energy was a lot more weaker. But that also shows us the direction that this consciousness, this program is attempting to take us. It tells us the more powerful. But that's not even true based on how we understand our dynamic. So that's the funny way of seeing it, because it shows you the way in and also the way out.